As a tax-paying American who also runs a little barbecue channel, I feel like my number one job this spring is to get you guys super excited to cook barbecue this barbecue season. And I felt like there was no other way to do that than to tell you to clean your smoker. Clean your smoker, guys. I'm practicing what I'm preaching, so we're here today to clean a smoker. I'm just gonna jump into it. No intros, no none of that stuff, guys. This honestly, I have this backyard smoker that was given to me by proxy through Jeremy Yoder. So this is Yoder's smoker, the solution. That's his deal. We'll do a video down the road about that, but you know who you are, who brokered this deal. So shout out you, my brother in barbecue. And then also I have the 500 behind me that I hand built. That's really how this channel started. You can go back and cringe at the tomfoolery of building a 500. And then over there, over yonder is a 1,000 gallon. And why am I telling you that? Because I got a long day ahead of me of cleaning smokers. So I'm just gonna walk you through kind of the tools that I like to use. Let's start here. Let's just jump into it. So there's kind of three things when it comes to smokers. So you have creosote buildup, and then you have rancid fat buildup, and then you have like what would be a combination of all that, where the creosote and the fat is mixing and it's sitting in there and it's going rancid. So now you got a contamination problem. And then on top of that, to top it all off, you have an exterior problem, which is these pits are built with steel, and steel rusts when it's left outside in the elements. So you're running a three-pronged issue here, and we're going to fix it. So I like to start off with these paint scrapers. As you can see, these have seen better days, and it is what it is. I like these paint scrapers because they're flexible, they're bendable, they're maneuverable, all the bull words, they're that. So I like them. You can use a bench scraper like what you would see on a service block at a barbecue restaurant. You know, the bench scrapers, you can use that, that's fine, but I like the curvature. So I'll leave links down to all this stuff, guys. You could go to any local, hardware store to pick these up. But if you want kind of the specifics, I'll leave a link to what I would buy if I were to buy new ones, which I probably should. Okay, so that's that. And then over yonder, oh gosh darn it, we have this is a wire brush. So this is a wire bristle brush. I just bought this like an hour ago from the store. Honestly, guys, because I don't love these. And I'll explain why. Without going too long-winded, you run the risk of these flaking off on your grates. And if you're not power washing, or running some kind of water over your grates, you run the risk of some of these wires flaking off. The camera's not gonna focus on it probably. Let me put it in front of my face. Focus, there we go. So you run the risk of these little guys falling out of their housing. And then the scary part though is that they will stick to the grate, because the grate, it's got the grease, it's got the sticky, it's got that. So they'll latch onto that. And the last thing you want, and it's probably a 1 in 1 million chance, but the last thing you want is for one of these to stick to the fat. You put a brisket on, you cook it, chop it, serve it, and send it down the intestinal tract of your mother-in-law. That would be the worst case scenario. If you like your mother-in-law. And I love mine, and she's watching this, so I would never do that. I would never. Anyways, okay. Where are we at? Let me go grab this right here. Okay. Next, we have this is just vegetable oil. And not a lot to say about this, guys. This is for the exterior and the interior of your smoker, grill, whatever you're using to cook your barbecue or grill your proteins. You want some oil, and the only thing I'll say on this is I don't like bacon grease. I don't like beef tallow unless it's purified or clarified. I think those are one and the same. But I don't like anything that's going to have the off trails of food. And the reason why is because if you do this in the summer, when everything heats up, you're just gonna heat, it's gonna be a honing beacon of flies. That's what's gonna happen. So I like to use really cheap veggie oil, honestly, because it's not really good for us, to be honest. And it doesn't really have a scent. It doesn't attract as many flies as like a bacon grease or like a beef tallow, if you were just to render the fat down, you know, what do we call it in barbecue? The golden liquid? I don't know. You guys know what I'm talking about. The beef tallow. If you render it down and you don't purify it, clarify it, it's going to smell like beef, and you don't really want that. Okay. Got a couple more things to show you guys. All right, y'all, next up we have what I don't really even know what I call this. I get this from like a Orscheln's or Menards, whatever, but it's not steel. This is more of like a bristle. I don't know what you would call this, like a plasticky bristle. So not as DEFCON 1 as steel going down the intestinal tract. Still not great, but I use this on my big smokers for the grates, guys. So I keep this tucked away. In a perfect world, this is going to be dedicated to your grates specifically. So you don't really want this to be all on your ground or in your garage. You want this to be set aside for the grates. And I just scrape my grates off with this guy. So I like this. I got another one if I need to get down in my 500-gallon smoker and really work it. But this is what I have here. And then next, this is a weed burner, blowtorch, flamethrower, whatever gets you excited. This is what this guy is, and obviously it has the gas line that runs down to a propane tank. So I use this mostly if I need to rush the seasoning of the exterior of my smoker, but more so than that, I use this to sanitize the grates. I'll explain that in a second, but if you blast a lot of degrees on a steel grate, you will sanitize it. And so this is my preferred method here. And then lastly, this is Zep. I'm a fan of Zep. They got a lot of good products from commercial industrial products down to just residential granite countertop cleaner. So I'm a Zep fan. This specifically is the foaming citrus degreaser. Now, here's the deal with this, guys. I don't use this inside. I really don't use any chemical product on the inside of my smokers. When I'm building smokers and they haven't been cooked in yet, I do use Color Purple. I think that's the name of the degreaser. I do use that. It's a strong degreaser, so if I'm building a smoker, I will use that. It's a whole different process, different conversation, but once I'm putting meat inside of my smoking apparatuses, they do not see chemicals. I use this on the outside, so I just like it. It's good, smells good, and boy, does it eat through some grease if you gotta spray off your smoker. So that's that. Let me just kind of walk you guys through what I do. I'll just show you. So the first main step for me is just to identify creosote buildup. That's this flaky stuff up top. Depending upon how much you let, all this build up will obviously determine how much you have. But the reason why I like this nifty guy is because I just follow the curvature of this and I just scrape. And as you see, I mean, it doesn't take long to knock that off. And, depending upon how OCD you are, you can spend a bunch of time on that, not a lot of time on that. My biggest thing when I'm scraping off the door creosote buildup is just to make sure that it's gone enough to where it's not going to flake off through the convection of the cook and drop down on my food. So that's the biggest thing that I'm worried about, is I don't want this flaky here, because on a high convective smoker like this one or like my 500 or 1,000 gallon, man, it's drawing air through the cook chamber fast, and this stuff will flake off. It'll catch the air and flake off and drop right on your food. So you don't want that stuff on there. Now, moving on. So the next name of the game is the grate treatment. For this application, I'm just going right over the top with my wire brush. And all I'm trying to do for this is I'm just trying to knock off any food that might be sitting on top of this. Of course, there's some creosote and grease and all that stuff that might be built up, but what you're trying to do is just knock the gunk off. All right, fam, so on the grates, you could go down the rabbit hole. You can go as far down as you want to go. On my big smokers, I take the grates out. I power wash them. I get them real nice and clean. If you wanted to, you could get a food safe degreaser. Zep has a food safe one as well. If you wanted to go that deep and really get it clean, you can do that. Yank a grate out, spray it down with food safe degreaser, or like what I do, I brush it off like you just saw, take the power washer, spray it down, and stick them back in for the next step of the process that I'll show you in a little bit. But I just want to wrap up this section here with the inside. So down in here, the reason why I like this guy right here, because I can go down and yank this mess out. So there's a lot of this gunk, but I can go down in here and get out. See that? That's all in the bottom of this. And if you had a bench scraper, it'd be a little difficult to get that curvature. But because this is curved already, I just come in and take all that gunk out. So you can, I mean, this is just a 5-gallon bucket from Tractor Supply, and you can run this play. Now, when it comes to this part of the process, being scraping out the grease and all the nasty stuff, I go all the way. If I care most about anything, it's this part. Guys, when I'm cooking for large crowds of people, I get anxiety when it comes to making people sick. That's a worst case scenario. If you do that, you will not only make people sick, but it hits the reputation. So for me, I'm really a stickler when it comes to food safety, and I do not let grease and gunk sit down in there. Now, I know people, when I was coming up in barbecue years ago, it was like a thing. People would say, "I'll leave that in there. That's flavor." Do not do that. I'm telling you guys, in all due respect, if you do that, you're being irresponsible. You really are. So please, that is not flavor. You do not want that. Take all that out. For me, guys, every time I pop open my smoker to put proteins in there, when I'm serving people, I want to be proud of the cleanliness of my smoker, and I want to lay my head at night and know that I wasn't negligent and left rancid nastiness in there. So this is it. And I'll round this part, the internals, out with the following. If you want it to go deeper than this, so this would be like, for me, a tier 2 clean. Tier 1 would just be take the scraper, scrape out the gunk, call it a day. A tier 2 clean would be to get my pressure washer and actually pressure wash out down to the steel. So it's going to go even deeper. It's going to take out not only that topical gunk, it's going to remove out that underlayer as well. That's a far more involved, far messier, more prolonged process, but that's more of a deep clean. That's like a quarterly deep clean for me, is to get in there with the pressure washer and really hit all that gunk out. So that's a tier 2 clean. And then, of course, like I said, you can hit the grates as well with the pressure washer if you want it to. And let's talk about the last step of the process when it comes to the internals. Now, once the inside of your smoker is scraped out, your grates are cleaned off, whether you went with the tier 2, hitting it with a pressure washer or some degreaser and really getting after it, or if you just do a tier 1 clean, you scrape that grease off, scrape the creosote out, call it a day. From there, now the inside is ready to season. So for seasoning, again, I have this Zet bottle full of just some basic vegetable oil, and on the inside, I'm literally just spraying the inside down. On my big smokers, I have paint rollers, and I will roll the paint on the doors. I'll roll the paint on the door like this, and on the bigger smokers, I'll really get in there with my paint roller. I'll dip it in some veggie oil, and I'll start rolling the interior of my smoker. Now, here's the mistake I see people do. They'll grease their smoker up and then they'll run a freaking bonfire in their firebox. I don't like to do that, because having built smokers, it is possible to warp doors. I've done that. Actually, on my 500-gallon smoker, I built the whole thing, and then to clean it out and to season it, I built a gigantic fire in the firebox, and it started warping my doors. It's just too hot. So now, if your doors are reinforced like these, which I ended up reinforcing my doors after the fact, but it was too late. If your doors are reinforced, you mitigate that risk a little bit. But my point is, guys, is try to refrain from burning bonfires in your firebox. The way that I like to set in grease is to take a weed burner, in this case, a weed dragon, and just run it. Oil this bad boy up, turn this to max freaking BTUs, and just hit it. Hit it like that. It'll set that grease in faster than any fire you're gonna run. Now let's talk exterior. The last part of this process is the exterior. So I got two things here. I got some, what brand is this? This is a Toolbox Professional White Rags. I don't know, guys. I get these from Menards. Again, links in description, but I got a box of these white rags, and the reason that I love these is because we're about to wipe down this smoker now, and I'm going to break this down here in a second, but I just want to tell you guys, these are my favorite because they're lint free. So gone are the days of using kitchen rags to season my my cooking and frying apparatuses. Like, you know, cast iron, when you use your kitchen rags, it leaves all the lint in it. I hate that. I love these guys. These are my favorite right here. And then this is just a bottle of really cheap veggie oil like we use on the inside. I have it in a Zep bottle, and I got the spray setting, not the spritz setting on. And then I hope the camera's picking it up just a little bit, but you can see the two-tone. So I got some of this sprayed down. When it comes to seasoning steel pits, the same with cast iron, less is more. You almost want to spray it down with the oil and then try to remove as much as you can. So it's pretty simple. My smoker is warm. I don't want to take this hot. We touched on this earlier. I'm not trying to build a bonfire in this bad boy, just hot enough to melt down this grease here. And then you can see a little will go a super long way. So I'm just getting this touched up, and we'll do the same thing on the front. So nothing too crazy. Get that nice and coated. With that raw patina, man, I love the look of this. So that's it, family. I mean, I could sit here on camera and get this whole thing seasoned up, but that doesn't, I think you guys get the point. So that's it. I'm gonna let this fire burn. I'll do the firebox, I'll do the cook chamber. I will even touch the smokestack. Here's the most important thing about seasoning down the exterior, and if you don't listen to anything about the exterior, catch this. You do not want to do this on a coal pit. If you've cooked on someone else's cast iron, for example, that doesn't really understand seasoning, a lot of times you'll see the cast iron will be super sticky. And I've come across people's smokers where they're real sticky. That's because they laid on, one, too much oil, and two, they put it on a cold pit and it's set there. You really want your pit to be warm. I like to roll 300 to 400 degrees. That's all you need. And again, if you want to supercharge the seasoning process, you don't really even need to set a fire. Just take that torch and just hit that torch on top of your cook chamber. All right, I got a lot to do here. So I appreciate all your support. I really do. If you enjoyed this content, guys, I don't ask anything from you if you're new. So if you're new here, don't do anything. Don't even subscribe. Don't do nothing other than have maximum enjoyment. And if it's not your first time here and you feel inclined to support, you can do that literally by hitting the subscribe button or dropping a comment. You know, all the YouTube stuff that we all say, but we really mean it. It makes a huge difference. As always, guys, I appreciate the barbecue community. Big Frizz, meet and greet, over and out.